Okay, good morning. I hope you're doing well. So since we're talking about cell communication diseases, the one that I chose is Parkinson's disease. So before we go into where in a Parkinson's patient does cell communication go wrong, I feel like we should understand cell communication first. So basically, what is cell communication? It is basically communication between the cells. They need to talk to each other because we have so many body parts and they need to talk to each other, and they just can't do that because they're not all connected. And so cell communication happens for many reasons, and sometimes that is to regulate your body to maintain homeostasis or to detect and respond to external stimuli. So there are two types. There's local signaling and long distance, and the one that Parkinson's deals with is long distance. And so there's direct signaling, whereby the ligands just pass through cell membranes because they can pass through. But when they cannot pass through, that's when signal transduction pathway comes in, and they have ligands and receptors so that the signal can pass through. So for signal transduction pathway, you have the ligand, which then goes onto the receptor, and the message gets transduced and a response is produced. So what goes wrong in a Parkinson's disease patient is that their dopamine neurons in their brain gets deteriorated, and so no dopamine is produced. So they don't have the ligand in the first place, and so no response can be produced. And why is ligand important? Because that is what carries the information. Like, think of a relay race, okay? So you have a ligand and a receptor, and the signal has to be passed so then that they can complete the race, which would be like producing the response. So without the ligand, nothing can actually happen. And so that's what happens in the Parkinson's patient, is that their dopamine neurons deteriorate, and therefore no dopamine is produced. So why is no dopamine produced? We don't know that. Like, why the neurons get destroyed. There is research going on as to why, and they think that it is due to chromosome 4 and chromosome 6. And there are many types, that's why there's two. There's like about 8 types of Parkinson's, and one of them is caused by chromosome 4 and the other is chromosome 6. And is it genetic? It can happen, but it's not autosomal. It's very rare. It affects like 1 in 100 people, and yeah. Moving on, the symptoms. So dopamine is responsible for movement, and so without it, you get symptoms with movement. You start to have tremors, you have a masked face because your muscles in your face can't move, and then you can't really swing your arms well, and so forth. Moving on. So what raises the risk? The age. Age, it usually affects people who are old from 60 and older. As usually, as you get older, more body parts in you deteriorate. But however, it can also happen when you're really young. For example, Michael J. Fox, I think we might know him from Back to the Future. He got it as early as 29 years old. And your family history can also play a role in that. And your race, it shows often more in white people, Caucasian people, than other races. And also gender, men getting more, and also where you live. So research has been going on that there might be some chemicals that cause the deteriorating, and therefore that is a new factor that's come up in the decade that we are right now. So treatments for Parkinson's, we have levodopa. So what is it? It's a chemical which basically imitates dopamine. So since there's no dopamine, they put this so that would act like dopamine. And other one is MAOB. They prevent the breakdown of dopamine, so that will make your dopamine neurons be there longer, and you have more dopamine. It'll basically prolong how long you have your muscle function. And another interesting one is deep brain stimulation. So basically what they do is they go into your brain and they send electrodes into your brain, and then they stimulate it. For example, the other day I was watching a video and someone gets stimulated by the violin. So while they pass down the electrode, he was playing the violin. And what it does is that it prevents the neurons that causes like tremors and stuff. It blocks them from going and causing the tremors. Yeah. Okay, discovery. So the reason why it's called Parkinson's is because it was found by James Parkinson. He wrote it in an essay called The Shaking Palsy. I found that one funny. So then later on, he also found that it was dealt with bradykinesia. So brady means slow, kinesia is movement. So it's the slowness of movement. And also, he's also famous for naming the multiple sclerosis. Okay, so these are two people. This is John Paul II, and that is Michael J. Fox that I mentioned before. There are two people who had Parkinson's, and they've been raising awareness. Michael J. Fox has a foundation, Michael J. Fox, and he helps to raise awareness. And the month for awareness is April, and this is a tulip. In most places, the Parkinson's is represented by this symbol because it represents hope, and mostly in Europe. And in the US, it's more of a gray ribbon because gray represents for neurological disorders. Thank you, and I hope that I've been able to educate you guys about Parkinson's.